So my lowest weight was 126 pounds. At my heaviest, I was 260 pounds. And so overall, I've lost around 130 pounds.
You did that thing. You went.
I was one of these women. I was proud to be a BBW, big, beautiful woman. I
Mhm.
was big and proud, but I had respiratory issues. I had a chronic cough, and I didn't know why. I didn't associate it with being bigger. I was losing a lot of weight. I want to say within the 3 days, I had lost maybe 7 or 8 pounds. Mental clarity, that's a thing. When I was doing my first 3 day fast, that mental clarity, I felt like my vision was just better. Let me tell you, I wish I would have discovered fasting a lot sooner. It would have saved me a lot of headaches.
Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching Healthy Alternatives. Today I have a very special guest, someone we've been trying to get on the show for years now, I think. India is here, finally. I am so happy and I feel honored to have you here on the show. And if you guys are interested in finding out more about her health and wellness journey, that's coming up next. All right, India, thank you. Thank you for being here. How are you feeling?
Absolutely. I feel amazing. Chris, thank you for having me on here. Like, I've been waiting to be on this show. I've been waiting, so I'm super excited to
You
be
you
here.
wanted to make sure you was perfect before you came on, right? It's like,
Man, I had to get my ducks in a row, let me tell you. But yeah, I'm finally ready.
all right. Well, look, let's start at the beginning, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about where you were when you decided to make some of these major health changes in your life. If you want to describe where you were physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Oh man. So this time around, because I will tell you, Chris, I've been on a weight loss journey for so many years now, going on 2 decades since I've been like trying to lose weight and then keep it off. But this is the first time that I've been successful with my wellness and my weight loss journey. And so I will say this time around, it was a lot of fear. It was a lot of fear in me this time around. And I know that's not ideal, but I had a mom who was getting sick. My sister, which at the time she was 37 years of age, she had suffered from a massive stroke, which essentially left her handicapped. So it was just a
Wow.
lot going on. I was gaining a lot of weight. I didn't know why I was gaining weight. So I was seeing numbers that I wasn't familiar with. I was one of these women. I was proud to be a BBW, big, beautiful woman. I
Hmm.
was big and proud, but it was getting to a point where I was just gaining a lot of weight and I didn't want to do that. I was comfortable, being a certain size, but my weight was just going up. So I had to figure out, what to do and I had to make some permanent changes. So a lot of fear, me not feeling my best, a lot of people don't talk about that, but we can be big and healthy, but I didn't feel good. I had respiratory issues. I had a chronic cough and I didn't know why. I didn't associate it with being bigger. And I just didn't want to be sick like my family. I saw the struggle. Everyone was struggling and I got tired of it and I just wanted to do something about it.
Mm. So, okay, I got a couple questions. Well, the first question is when you were telling yourself, I'm proud to be a BBW, let me ask you, did you really believe that, or was that just something that you repeated to yourself it was like a coping mechanism?
Oh man, it was just acceptance really. I don't think I've ever really just wanted to be big, but it got to a point where I was just comfortable with it, in our community, the Black American community, it's always okay to be thick and everyone's talking about curves and so I just accepted it. I thought it was hereditary, so I didn't think that I
Mm.
could be in another body. And so I've always loved the way that I look. I've always been confident, but to be honest, and I hate saying that, like, I hate saying it, but it was just a lot of acceptance. This is me. This is how I'm gonna be. There's no other option for me. So either you love it or you hate it.
Yeah. See, that's such powerful insight because there are so many people that still believe that they just cannot be smaller. They believe the narrative of big boned or genetics or whatever, the mainstream narrative is. Um, But obviously on this show, I think we've proven time and time again that people who thought, look, I can never be slim, have been able to be a very healthy weight. And even my mom, who, was probably your size. How tall are you?
I'm 5'6", almost 5'6", like 5'5.5".
Five. Okay, you ain't 5'6". You 5'5". um, okay, so my mom, she's like 5'8" or something like that, 5'9". But you guys have a similar frame, and she was very very small in like college, and even up until her mid 40s or so, she was still very very small, even after having 5 children. And then as she got into her 50s and 60s, she started gaining weight. She probably, put on at least a good 60, 70 pounds. And then she determined that because of her age and her weight, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
She can't get back down to that size she was when she was either in high school or whatever. And I'm like, Mom, how can that possibly be true? You lived the majority of your life at that size. But there's something about our mentality that we accept. It's easier maybe, or I'm not sure, but that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. What are some of the things that you have attempted to do to lose weight in the past? Like, what are some of the things that didn't work?
Wow. So like any and every diet, I've tried every diet that you can think of. I've done the low carb Atkins. I've done, meal replacement, the shakes that they sell. I've done, the 8 meal a day. There was back in the 90s, back in the mid 90s, there was some kind of 8 meal a day plan. And they say, you're going to speed up your metabolism. You're supposed to eat throughout the day. And that's when the whole eat 6 and 8 times a day. I tried that one. That didn't work. Wow. I've tried just straight up restrictions. So like no cake, no cookies, no, just coming up with a list of things that I couldn't eat. But the thing is, I never saw myself doing anything long term. I think I tried like a boiled egg diet at once. I was eating boiled eggs and bacon. I was, I've done a lot.
Hey,
I've done a lot.
yeah. It's funny because like so many people that be like, I've done it all. I've done it. And it's just like that phrase is always like not the truth because there's
Yeah,
I have this saying, for every problem there's a solution. So if you feel like your weight is a problem, if you feel like your health is a problem, there's a solution. And if you haven't found the solution yet, you haven't tried it all. But we get ourselves into that narrative. It's like I think what it is there are mainstream options, and those are the options you've tried all. But the alternative space is wide open. You know.
absolutely.
So
100%.
when did you initially like understand fasting was a tool that you could use for like improving your health? When was that?
It was probably in, I want to say late 2019. So I started my journey in April of 2019. I started with just calorie restriction. I started counting my calories. And I want to say counting calories was like a gateway to other nutrition because like with diet culture, you're just not learning about nutrition. You're not learning about really what you're eating. You're just following a diet temporarily and then you're going back into your old habits. And so I
Mm,
started counting my calories. I lost the bulk of my weight by doing that. Like half of my weight I lost by counting calories. And then it just allowed me to start paying attention to like nutrition overall. I started really reaping the benefits of eating like whole single ingredient foods. So if calorie restriction is a thing, then I really don't need to eat 6 times a day because it just makes it more complicated. It almost makes it impossible.
mm,
So I just started, and then of course I came across your channel, and I'm like, okay, because at one point I did reach a plateau to where I was doing my calorie thing, but I wasn't losing any weight, and and that's where I introduced like forms of fasting, and it literally just sent me over that hill, over that hump, and so I love it.
okay. So you are a product of the caloric restriction diet, which is crazy because
Yeah.
that is so hard to do. So I already know so much about you as a person because you were successful to some degree on that. Like that is not easy to do. Um, what weight were you at your largest, or when I guess you decided to start in 2019 when you were doing the caloric restriction?
At my heaviest, I was 260 pounds.
Okay, so then and then you got where were you when you hit your plateau?
When I hit my plateau, I want to say around 180 pounds. Like, for whatever reason, I was still losing good weight. I lost good weight, but I still had more weight to lose. Never
Right.
intended on losing a whole bunch of weight, but I knew I had more to lose. And just at that point, calorie restriction, it just wasn't doing it for me anymore. Like, I was so successful with it, and then it just kind of stalled.
That's so interesting. I'm really appreciative of your insight because okay, I if you follow enough of my content, you know that I don't think calories in calories out works. I do say okay, it'll work for a small percentage of people, which I might put you in that category, but then because you plateaued and it I sounds like you was doing your thing, you had a good regimen going. It seems like after so much weight with the calories in, calories out, it plateaus, and then you're gonna have to switch it up. Like
Oh, yeah,
that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So
absolutely.
anybody with 150, 180 pounds to lose, they might find good, weight loss for half of it or whatever, but then they might stall out. So were you also exercising while you were doing the calories in, calories out?
No, the most I did was walk. I would take 30-minute walks every day. That's about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, usually those two go hand in hand. So once again, I think you being able to do that just strictly, can you help us understand what that looked like? Like, you lost a lot of weight doing that. What was it like? What were you eating? How did you count all the calories?
Well, at the beginning of my calorie counting journey, at first I was just eating random things. I was still doing the fast food, but I was trying to look at my calories. But at one point, that became so miserable because when you're eating fast food and you're trying to be in a calorie deficit, you're barely eating any food. So I'm thinking, like, this ain't working. So I started really prioritizing eating whole single ingredient foods. And that's really
Mm.
what did it for me, just the whole foods, fruits and vegetables. And I still, monitored my calories. I still ate the other food, but most of the time I was just eating whole foods because I was so hungry trying to eat fast food and processed foods, and so I had to just really change how I was eating. I still counted my calories, but I changed like most of how I was eating.
Okay, that brings a little bit more clarity. So you basically went to a whole food diet
Oh yeah.
and you counted your calories, but when you're eating whole foods, you can consume way more food, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That that makes a lot of sense. All right, so you got to the point where you had plateaued, you started playing around with fasting. Tell me a little bit about that experience with fasting. What was your first fast like? Did you prep? Did you have detox symptoms? Dive into that.
Okay, yeah, my first fast was later in 2019. I had attempted like a 3-day water fast. So it was just 3 days water only. And I will say the first day I didn't prep. I didn't do any of that. I just, went into it, watching random videos on YouTube. I just went right into it. I will say on that first day, I I had a lot of side effects. I had a lot of symptoms. My head was hurting. I felt tired. I was cold. That got to me the
Mm.
most. I was cold. I couldn't sleep. And so I got through that first day. I was just determined to get through the first day, and then the second day, the third day, it was fine for me. And refeeding, I don't know. I don't know about the refeed. I think I was looking at videos and they was telling you to like drink broth and do things and then eat 30 minutes later, and the refeed was, never worked out for me. It would always upset
Mm.
my stomach. So the first, fast, my first 3-day fast, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too rough, but there was, a lot of learning to be done.
Okay. I mean, that's exactly why I created this channel because, you know, when I was looking seeking health advice, I'm like, there are pitfalls everywhere I look. And it just so happened that, my grandmother had taught me about like some baseline things about health. So I was able to see the pitfalls. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't resonate. And then I realized that I couldn't really find a single platform where I could just get good information, you know? So I created the channel thinking I'm going to collect information, wellness information, filter it out, and then I'm just going to dispense the stuff that actually works and makes sense. So refeed is one of those things that everybody's got their opinion about refeed,
Yeah.
but I think we have a refeed that works for the mass majority of people. Um, I don't want to say everybody, but I'm, close enough. And, it makes sense. It resonates. So you did your 3-day fast. You seem like you had a few little detox symptoms. When did you do your next fast? What did that look like?
My next fast, I probably did it like the following month, and it was a lot better. I did another 3-day, because at that point, just getting through it, that did something to me mentally. Like, I don't know,
Mm.
like just the fact that I was able to complete it, even if I was sick or, having issues refeeding, the fact that I completed it made me want to do another one and just try different, try to prep this time around because now at this point, I've been watching other people's journey. I've been watching you. So I'm like, okay, let me try to do something different this time around. And so the second, yeah, my second fast, I kind of breezed through it, it was great.
Do you recall how much weight you were losing on these fasts?
Oh yeah, man. I was losing a lot of weight. I want to say within the 3 days I had lost maybe 7 or 8 pounds. Like the weight was coming off pretty good. And each time I would do it, I would think like I'm done losing weight. I can't lose anymore. But these fasts would really, really get me through and it was coming off.
Yeah. I learned, I'm not going to say the hard way, but I learned a valuable lesson. So like I had started fasting and I was fasting for like 5 months straight. And then after a year of fasting on and on and on, I kind of slowed down, but I decided I wanted to try dry fasting and I wanted to be able to teach dry fasting. So I did some dry fasting and I was at my lowest weight at the time, which was 173 pounds, which is absolutely crazy for my height because, that's like at the bottom of what they consider the weight range, the healthy weight range. And I thought I was not going to lose any weight. I thought I was going to lose weight, but I was like, I'm not going to lose that much weight. And I ended up getting down to now. Don't get worried. Don't get scared. I'm gonna tell you this number. I don't want you to freak out. But I got down to 146 pounds.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can lose weight, but this is the reason why. Like when people be like, "Oh, I'm big boned," and I'll be like, "No, you're not."
All right. Yeah.
Because if I got down to a very like it's off the charts. Like it's not even. Now the interesting thing was, even though I was at that weight, I still felt good. Like I thought I would be sick, weak. I still had strength. Like I was still working. So that was interesting. But what did you continue to do after? Did you continue doing the 3-day fast? Did you say, I'm going to do some longer fasts? Tell us about, you know, how that worked out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, after doing like the extended fasting, I started getting into like an OMAD regimen, and I've been doing like OMAD ever since. I'm like, I really don't need the breakfast and the lunch. And at that point, after doing a 3 day fast, being able to eat every day really didn't feel like restriction to me. Like even now,
Yeah.
it's 5 p.m. I still haven't had my meal yet, and I feel 100% fine. People like, how are you
Mhm.
surviving? Oh my God, I will pass out if I didn't eat all day. And I'm like, I can run a marathon right now. Like, you know, I feel amazing. I feel energetic. I feel clear. Mental clarity. That's a thing. When I was doing my first 3 day fast, that mental clarity, I feel like my vision was just better, which is weird. Like my vision is really bad, but I felt like I could just see better.
I mean, yeah, you probably can. Like you probably actually can. Um, that's exactly where I'm at right now. Like I do one meal a day. I'll eat. I basically I never, unless it's a special occasion or something, I basically never eat before 4 p.m. And usually because of my schedule, and I don't recommend this, but I'm usually eating at around 8, you
Yeah.
know? But like, it depends on people's schedule. I also go to sleep super, super late. But eating earlier is better. Like, if you could eat at like around 6 or something, that's probably better. But I eat around 8, okay? It is what it is. Yeah, but the one meal a day helps keep everything, it's like maintenance,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
So once you switch to the one meal a day, what issues did you see as far as your weight goes? Did you see fluctuations? Did you find it hard to maintain? Did you find that you had a lot of weird cravings? Like tell us about your one meal a day and how that's affected you.
I will say when I'm not consistent with doing the OMAD diet, that's the only way that I'm gonna have issues with my weight. Like if I can just stick with OMAD, everything just kind of falls into place with me. Even if I'm going to a restaurant and I'm eating something that I don't typically eat on my one meal, it really doesn't affect me that much unless I'm just eating all day or like you said, some special occasions. So now I'm eating at somebody's wedding, then I'm going home and I'm eating. Anytime I'm just not eating my one meal between 4 and 6 or whenever, that's the only um that's the only time I have issues with like my weight maybe going up, or like when I'm off track and I do eat a breakfast because it's hosted at my job or whatever, the day after that, then I'm craving more. So it's like when I'm
Mm.
off track, that's when all my issues come in and all my cravings and whatever.
Okay. So consistency has been the key for your success, and I love the insight you're providing because I tell people that eating creates appetite. So when you get off your schedule, you have to know that and kind of be prepared for it. Now, me personally, I have prepared some tools for people to be able to use to make sure that they stay on track, like our appetite suppressant tea, for example. Because when you get hungry, you want to eat and then it spirals because eating creates
Yeah.
appetite. So have you ever found that you've like had a major setback since well, first of all, how much weight have you lost? What's your lowest weight?
So my lowest weight was 126 pounds. I am currently
Oh, you did that thing. You went.
Yeah, that's my lowest weight. And so right now I currently teeter around the 130-pound range, give or take 5 pounds. And so overall I've
Oh
lost around
yeah.
130 pounds.
Yeah, you hit that mark. You hit that mark. You know what I'm saying? That's where you want to be. Okay, so have you ever seen any like major backsliding?
Yeah, probably I want to say about 3 years ago is where I saw like a lot of just me going back into old habits. I guess I was making a lot of excuses. Like, I've lost all this weight. I can be a little bit more lenient, or I can just relax a little
Mm.
bit and take my foot off the gas. I was just making excuses, and that just kept leading to bad decisions. eating
Mm.
cake. Oh, it's my mom's birthday. Let me go ahead and eat half this cake. Or, we're on vacation. So let me, just making an excuse to eat bad or do bad.
So then the advice would be to catch yourself before you fall too much. Like don't allow yourself to think that you made it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's crazy cuz like people always ask me, "Chris, if I do this fast, how long like is it going to last? Like okay, I do this fast, I lose 100 pounds. Am I good or am I going to have to keep fasting?" And I'm just like, are you going to change your diet? Like, are you going to change what caused you to get to this 100 pounds overweight in the first place?
Exactly. Like something has
So,
to change. You can't go back into old habits and living how you were because that's what made you the size you were to begin with. You'll have to make some kind of permanent changes if you want to see those permanent results.
hmm and I guess based off what you're saying, would you say that the way you eat now, not just your OMAD, but the types of foods you eat, do you feel like you're restricting yourself? Is it a struggle
Oh
every day?
no, I look forward to it. I will dance around my meal. You give me two apples, I'm happy about it. I don't know. And that's another thing with fasting too. I feel like it changed my appetite completely to where like when I
hmm
was in my 20s, I really didn't eat fruits and vegetables. And I know that sounds bad, but I really didn't eat like fresh produce like when I was in my 20s, early 30s, but now, and I'm 39 years of age. I'll be 40 in a few weeks. So a milestone year
And you
for
look
me.
good too. You turn back the hands of time on that, didn't you?
Yeah, but I like now it's like I genuinely enjoy like whole foods, fresh foods. Like I barely cook for myself because most of what I eat is like fresh produce and I actually like it. I
Mm.
like the way that I eat.
That is a great point. It's important for people to understand that this is a process, right? Like, if it takes you 100 days or a year or whatever to get to whatever weight you want to be, like whatever that weight is, during that time, it's important to also be mindful about lifestyle change. What are you going to be eating? Take advantage, especially if you're using fasting. Take advantage of the appetite reset, the taste bud reset, and get your body used to eating healthy food, which fresh produce is. You just can't go wrong. And then when you get to your goal weight, you'll be able to maintain it easier because you've created new habits.
Absolutely. You said it. That's it.
Yeah. How long did it take you when you I guess from the caloric restriction to getting down to that 125? What was that time
Okay,
frame?
so the first little chunk of weight loss, just from the calories, that took me about 8 months. And then with fasting incorporated, that took like an additional like 5 months. So we're looking at like a year and a half just for my weight loss overall for the 130 pounds.
Okay. Which is, I mean, incredible because you did half of that time the hard way. So if you would have started off with the fasting only, you would have been able to do it in under a year
I
easily.
know. I would. Let me tell you. I wish I would have discovered fasting a lot sooner. It would have saved me a lot of headaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was, I guess, the point I was trying to get across. I'm always looking to pick apart the calorie in, calorie out dietary strategy because even though most health influencers know it doesn't work, people, because of the propaganda from the 90s, they still believe that it works. To this day, people will argue with, yeah, it works. And I'm just like, why do y'all still believe it? So not only is it slower, then you have to worry about plateaus, which with fasting, you just don't hit
Yeah.
plateaus. If you're doing the dietary stuff, right? Like you do the dietary strategy as well. And it's
Oh yeah.
faster. So it's less effort, it's faster. You don't hit plateaus. Where's why are we even fighting for the calories in, calories
Yeah,
out?
and
Why?
it's tricky too. Like it's having that calorie awareness. It's good. Like self awareness. A lot of us are delusional
hmm
when we're eating certain foods. We're thinking we're not eating that much, and so calorie awareness is good, but it's just so many layers to it. Like I said earlier, it's not really practical for a lot of people. Like it'll work, short term, but it's it's rough because then you're talking about like cycling your calories. You really can't be too low calories every day because metabolism and so on and so forth. And
Ah,
so it's very, very tricky. And yeah, it's a lot of people just don't understand. Like people don't get it.
yeah, yeah. Because they're not doing it. They're just
Yeah.
talking. You know, they're just talking. People just talk, or maybe they did it for like a week or two, and they lost some weight. So like, no, it works. They're not looking at the big picture. I wanna take a look at your mental now. So earlier we talked about, you were feeling like I'm big. It's just genetics. It is what it is. You were proud to be a BBW, all that type of stuff. Where are you at now? Now that you've, gotten down to 130 pounds. And also, I'm curious to know how your family has reacted to this transformation.
Wow. Well, first of all, I get a lot of mixed reactions to it. I still get people like I'll show a before picture of me in like some swimwear or whatever, and people will say, "Oh, you look better when you were bigger," or "You need to gain some weight. You're too small." I've heard people accuse me of being on drugs. So I get, people really give me my props, and you know, I get a lot of good feedback, but I don't know, like I some people just you're too small, you look sick, and the whole thing. But I will say, like mentally, like if I can just ingrain in people, because I know where I used to be and I know how I felt when I was
Mhm,
bigger. I thought I was healthy. My blood work looked decent. There wasn't anything chronically wrong with me. So in my mind, I was a big person who was healthy. You hear people
mhm,
arguing that just because you're fat, that doesn't mean you're unhealthy. But I didn't know
mhm,
how lousy I felt until I started losing weight. And so I will say now that I'm
mm,
almost 40, I feel a lot better now than I did when I was 30 and 20. Mentally,
mm.
physically, emotionally, I'm just carrying the extra weight is really not what it's cracked up to be. People are so concerned about being too small or looking a certain way. And I'm like, I wish people understood that, getting down, to a decent BMI, and there's the whole thing that the BMI system is flawed. I get that. But yeah. But like mentally, I feel so good. I meditate a lot. I do a lot of journaling, you know.
Okay. I'm going to respond to everything you said, but the first thing I'm going to respond to is the BMI thing because it always comes up and people just absolutely hate when I talk about this BMI, right? First of all, the BMI is flawed. What in this world is
Right, right.
perfect? What, like, name one thing in this world that is perfect. So it's like, okay, Captain Obvious, thank you. It's flawed. My camera system's flawed. We had problems with that earlier today. The internet doesn't work well. Like, the cars are flawed. Okay, great. This is an indicator we use to say, are you leaning healthy or are you leaning unhealthy? That's it. Okay. All of this idea about taking into consideration everybody's body and physique. Listen, I understand that, right? But I think what the problem is, especially in America, in our community, we have people that are obese and morbid obese, and we think those are average
Yeah.
size people. So of course you're going to say that someone who gets down to a true healthy range is going to look sick because we're used to seeing people all puffed up and inflamed. And we have literally, you've seen that all your life. You don't know what healthy looks like, right? So I understand those, especially being, you know, in you're, are you considered the South? Because I know it's like
Yeah.
North Carolina, but it's like
Yeah.
considered the South. It's the South, right? You're in the South. There's a whole different um, vibe down there, especially as it relates to women and their physique. I understand all that stuff, but look, if you want to be healthy, then it just like there's no way around it because you can't be obese and healthy. It's no different from saying I'm I'm healthy except I got cancer. That's it. Get rid of this cancer. I'm healthy. It's like, wait, what? So, you know, I'm glad that in spite of the fact that people have attempted, I don't know. Like I look at it as discouragement because sometimes people get very jealous
Mm.
and they think, okay, you looked better before, whatever, because they are still. Let me ask you this. I'm curious. For the people that like downplay your transformation in whatever way, whatever they say, are these people that are like fit and healthy by like healthy standards, or would you say that these are usually people that are overweight or
Yeah,
obese?
pretty much obese, overweight. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, there you go. Because if you go to the gym and you with the fit girls, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, girl, you look good." Da, 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 you know. So yeah,
I
that's
mean,
I
good point.
mean, misery loves company. Misery loves company. I I'm proud of you. I think that you did an amazing job. I think I have seen your before and after pictures, but I don't know if I saw the you at your largest weight because I know you sent me some pictures and stuff. We'll use them in the video and everything. I don't know if I've actually viewed them,
I
but
actually don't
I
have
did.
any pictures of me at my heaviest weight. That's the funniest part. I don't have pictures of me
Ah,
at my heaviest. So I
and
think
why do you think that is?
that's a that's a good question. Yeah. I don't have
Because
pictures.
even at your heaviest weight, you had the mindset BBW. I'm confident, da 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 da. But then you don't have any pictures.
Yeah.
So we even subconsciously, because I'll say, subconsciously, you might have been like, I don't, nah, I'm avoiding that mirror. I'm avoiding that camera. I'm avoiding video being in a place where I could be recorded. I find that to be very, very true amongst people, you know. And the reason why I'm trying to highlight this is because you, I've so many people have told me that they love their size, that they're happy with their weight, and then I see it being echoed on social media platforms with the body positivity movement, and I'm just like, maybe you do consciously believe that, but subconsciously you don't. What
That's
do
so
you think
funny to
about
me.
the body positivity movement? Like, I'd love to hear your perspective.
I'm all for body positivity, but I think a lot of people just have it all wrong. In a sense, like for me, body positivity can be like a mother who has like a pouch, on her stomach from having a baby, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's 600 pounds either. She can be a healthy weight, healthy woman, but she just so happen to have stretch marks, or the man who's 5'4", he's not tall or ideal, or he doesn't fit that societal standard. So I look at it differently, but a lot of people just associate body positivity with being overweight and fat acceptance, and so that's really where it gets a bad rep. But like for me, I still have like the cellulite and the stretch marks, and I have a little bit of loose skin. It's really not all that bad to be honest, but I do have loose skin. So someone like me, I still need body positivity because I don't have this ideal body, or I don't fit the societal standards of beauty, but people don't really see it like fat versus, yeah.
So if you went into the body positivity space, you almost might not fit in because of the way that it's been portrayed, over the past few years or half a decade, where it's really just focused on obesity. Like the perspective that you're giving on it is not the mainstream perspective, and I'm gonna say that because I'm not in the movement. I don't research it. I don't know much about it. I only know what's the most popular opinions about it and some of the most popular people that talk about it. And so I only see the obesity side. Whereas I think like okay, yeah, like a guy that's 5, 2 or whatever. I think you said 4'11" or something. Even at 5'4", like guys are getting roasted for being 5'4". Like it's horrific for guys at 5'4" because women are just like, nah, you gotta be taller.
Yeah.
Do you um do you happen to watch Pop the Balloon?
Oh yeah. I hate that show.
You
I really
you
do.
do you
I hate it.
you see what y'all be doing to us, man?
It's
Them dudes,
crazy.
those guys, they'll be 5'10", 6 foot, and the girls are like, you're too short. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah,
What
that.
what height are y'all looking for?
And then the guys will be taller than the women on the show, and they'll still pop it. Yeah, I watch it. It's crazy. I don't like that show. I hate it because they'll pop the balloon because a man got on some pants and they don't like the pants, or yeah, it's
Man, honestly, I'm 6'6", and I do not have girls. I'm not beating girls off with a stick. So I don't know. I think people just don't be honest on that show. It's like, I'm just not attracted to you. Your teeth are messed up or your hair, but they just say the height. I don't know, but I know height is a big thing for women. Like they want taller men. But even me being a taller guy, I've had women tell me, "Oh, you're too tall." So it's like, it's like you can't win for losing. It's like there's nothing. But anyway, I appreciate you giving a little insight on that because when I very first started talking about the effect that the body positivity movement was having on our community specifically, I got attacked. People were saying, "Oh, you're looking for a white woman," and da da da, all this other stuff. And it's just like, no, I just want someone healthy. Like, like, why does it have to? Why do y'all gotta go to the extreme?
yeah, that's a lot.
Like our women, they're not allowed to be healthy. Like they gotta be obese for me, and I gotta like thick girls. Like I don't understand. Um, so you've been able to maintain this for a very long time. What advice would you give somebody who is coming in your footprint, right? Like they've got 150 pounds to lose. They want to utilize fasting, but then they're nervous about like reverting back to old habits. What advice would you give them to encourage them and support them to stay the course, be consistent, and have similar outcomes?
I would say, and this is going to be like a non-traditional tip, but just to start journaling. Like when I started journaling, I became so self-aware of just everything, my emotions, even what I was eating, because it started out for me as just a food journal. And then once you start writing things down and really looking at it, you can it's self-awareness is a trip, but like just start journaling. Community is so important. Just be around like-minded people, because if you're fasting
Mm,
and you're around a lot of people who don't know anything about fasting, they're telling you you're going to pass out and you're sick and you're unhealthy. That can be very discouraging, and you will second guess yourself. So like community, be around people who are doing the same thing you are, so you can have that accountability, so you can go to them whenever you're having a hard time. That helps, a texting buddy or something, some like-minded people, because let me tell you, especially our people, Chris, I don't know, it's our people. They will try to science you, school you, and tell you everything you're doing wrong. Meanwhile, they've never picked up a book about fasting. They don't know anything about fasting. They say you got to do this and that. And so when you start hearing that, you're going to second guess yourself. So it's good to be around people, who are doing what you're doing, who have already been through what you're doing, so you can really get solid information.
absolutely. Is there anything? Okay, the one thing I did want to ask you because you had mentioned that you had a few different issues before you started losing the weight. What is your health like today? Like outside of the weight, have you reversed those issues? What do you got going
Oh
on
yeah.
now?
So before I started my weight loss journey, my cholesterol was slightly elevated. It was to the point where my doctors were telling me to change my diet, to get my cholesterol down. My blood pressure was unstable, so it was a little bit up in number, but All that stuff I thought was normal. That's normal. It's hereditary. My mom has this, my dad has that. So high blood pressure, high cholesterol really didn't bother me. But now, like, if I'm in the green on everything, my A1C is 4.7. Like, everything is like spot on as far as like my blood work, my lab work.
Yeah.
Like, I move good. My blood pressure, like, is everything is perfect. All my numbers are perfect. Like, there's no issues with cholesterol. This high cholesterol that I had in my early 30s, I don't have that anymore. The respiratory issues, I had a bad cough and I didn't know.
Mm.
I didn't even associate it with weight loss, but one day I just noticed that this cough is gone. It was bad to the point where I was getting sent home from work. Back then, I had worked at a call center. And I was getting sent home. I was, going to urgent care trying to figure out why I had this really bad cough. Never figured out anything. They just prescribed me with like medication that just masked the cough. It really didn't like
Mm.
heal anything. And so I just started losing the weight and then I noticed it was gone.
That's interesting. So you, my stepmom, she had to be late 30s, early 40s, because I'm not 100% sure because just I was only like 9 or 10 at the time. It's just hard to gauge her age. I don't know, but she had got a cough. And I remember I was living with her and my dad, and she had this cough just from my recollection alone for 3 months straight. I don't know 100% that she ever got rid of the cough because I moved away. But she had this cough. All right, so then probably about maybe 5 to 8 years later, she ended up passing away from
Mm.
cancer. Now, I don't know all of the details. I never really asked my dad, never asked my family about all of the details. And, that was before I was ever really into health and wellness. So I just, but I think that that cough was the first indicator of something going terribly wrong with her health. And it ended up claiming her life less than 10 years
Mm.
later. So I don't know what the cough is, what cough you had, right? But I know that our body gives us indicators that our health is rapidly declining, and we think it's just a cough. And then it ends up turning into cancer, right? Or it's just a headache, and it ends up being a brain aneurysm. So it's like, it's not just a this. It's the first, or really not the first warning signs, but it's the alarms are going off to make a change. We can't mask with medicine and you know I don't even know what people do, to be honest. I'm so disconnected from it, but like we can't mask it. We have to, hey, what's wrong? Am I dehydrated? Am I not eating well? Do I have like are my hormones off? Like we gotta like figure that out because those small things turn into big things later on down the
Oh,
road.
yeah.
All right. So, do you have social media? Do you have anything you like to share? Any projects you got going on? Like this is your opportunity. I don't know what you got going on. I don't know if you coach. I don't know what you got going on. So let us
Absolutely.
know.
Well, I'm on social media, Instagram, YouTube. I'm India Shiana on everything. SHEANA. That's on all platforms. I don't coach or anything, but I do just share my personal weight loss journey. I offer weight loss motivation. You have a lot of doctors and bariatric specialists that tell you that it's just impossible to lose weight and to keep it off. So they're pushing surgery on everyone. And so I'm just offering another side of it so you can see that it can be done. So you can see that it doesn't have to be hereditary or you don't have bad genes. It's possible.
Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent. Well, listen, I appreciate you spending this time with us. Um, we'll see how this whole thing turns out as far as the quality. We might, run it back, but depending on the types of questions and things we get, maybe we'll have you back on, do a live stream or something like that. So if you guys are interested, if I missed any questions, put those questions down in the chat so that we interact again. We could get get those questions answered for you guys. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I will see you all next time.